Listeners, gather close. This is Mr. Horror Global. Tonight's story comes from a man who spent his life as a club DJ, a man fortune tellers couldn't breathe near, who's never once seen a ghost, and who watched what came for everyone standing beside him. Viewer discretion advised. The man nothing could touch. Let me tell you about myself first, because none of the rest of this is going to make sense otherwise. In my whole life, I have never once seen a ghost. Not one time. I've never had sleep paralysis either. Never woken up in the dark, unable to move, with something sitting on my chest. People describe that as the most frightening thing that can happen to a person, and I've just never had it. Not a single time. The reason, I'm told, is that I have unusually strong energy. Life force, blood, whatever you want to call it. I don't fully understand it myself, but every few years I'd go and get my fortune read, and twice in my life I went to two different readers, years apart, both of them supposed to be the real thing, both famous in their little corners, and both times the second I stepped through the door, they started coughing, hacking like they were choking on something, bent over, hands on their knees, and when they got their breath back, they said almost the exact same words to me. Your energy, it's too strong. I can't breathe in here. It's suffocating. That was my introduction to myself. So I've never seen a ghost. But here's the strange flip side of it. A handful of times in my life, I've looked straight at a person, an ordinary person, clear as day, standing right in front of me, and everyone else with me swore afterward that it was a ghost. To my eyes, it was a person, just a person. That's happened to me 2 or 3 times now. Hold on to that, because it matters later. For a lot of years, I worked as a club DJ, small cities one after another. This was back when the ordinary clubs closed at midnight and the hotel clubs went until 2 in the morning. So I spent my whole young life surrounded by loud music and dancing and drinking, and apparently by a lot of the dead. And because of whatever I am, they never touched me. They just took whoever happened to be standing next to me. That's really what all of this is about. I'm the one who walks through it untouched, and I watch what it does to the people around me. Let me start with the one that made me realize what I was. This was 6 or 7 years ago. There was a period horror show everybody was streaming that year, one of those historical zombie things, and the company I worked for had dorms for the staff. I was out in the countryside then, and the benefits were surprisingly good. There were about 9 of us all told, and one room they'd rigged up with a projector and a screen so we could watch movies together. So one night we all planned it out and sat down to watch this show as a group. It was good, but I got so sleepy I kept nodding off and jerking awake. Nodding off and jerking awake. Around midnight I finally said, all right, let's finish the rest tomorrow. And I looked around and every single one of them was already dead asleep. Every one. So I thought, fine, I'll just kill the screen and sleep here on the floor with them and drag myself back to my own room later. And I had a dream. I was standing in a field of reeds. Tall reeds, shoulder high, thick as anything, and about 10 meters ahead of me stood an old man. He wore a wide black hat, the old kind, and a long black robe. If I tell you he looked like a death messenger, a reaper come to collect somebody, you'll have the right picture. One hand was tucked behind his back, and with the other he was curling a finger at me. Come here, come to me. Between us, the reeds had been trampled flat, so there was a path, and I could see him all the way down to his feet, and he kept beckoning. Now, I'm not usually a rude person, but in the dream something came out of me, and I said, why? Why don't you come here yourself? And he lifted himself up on the balls of his feet and dropped back down, stroked his beard, made this low humming sound, and then beckoned again. And I got annoyed, not scared, annoyed. Why is this old man ordering me around from a distance if he wants something? So I got a little rougher with him, and he rose up on his toes again, dropped down, hummed, and beckoned. So I cursed at him. I said something you don't say to an old man, something like, "Has this old fool lost his mind? Why is he waving me over like that?" And the second I said it, he flung his robe back over his shoulder and turned and walked away. I turned around too, and behind me there was a house. One of those old country houses you'd only find decades back. Mud walls, paper windows, a wooden porch, sitting there alone maybe 30, 50 meters off, and there was something wrong with the kitchen. The kitchen had two doors. One was shut fast, wooden, but the other kept creaking open and swinging shut. Open, shut, creak, open, shut. I walked toward it. I don't know why I walked toward it, but I did, straight at that swinging door, and I pulled it open. And on the side where the sunlight came in, it was bright as day. On the side the light didn't reach, it was black, pure dark. So I slammed the door shut, and the second it shut, it creaked back open, slammed it again, open. The hinge was warped, one of those old iron ones, so I found a piece of wood and I wedged it under the door and jammed it tight, and finally the creaking stopped. And in the dream I felt this wonderful sense of satisfaction, like I'd solved something. And then I woke up. It was about 7 in the morning. I started shaking the others awake. "Come on, wash up, we've got work." And while they groaned about how much of the show they'd missed, I said, "Hey, I had the strangest dream." And I told them. The reed field, the old man in the black hat beckoning, the kitchen door, all of it, just like I told you. And one of the women on staff, I'll call her Rachel, went white, sheet white. The blood just drained out of her face. I asked what was wrong, and she told me. Rachel got sleep paralysis constantly, at least once a week, sometimes 3 times. Her father was a police officer and he got it too, always had, so maybe it ran in the family. In her sleep paralysis, the recurring one, went like this. There's an old man in a field of reeds beckoning her, and she turns and runs. And however far she runs, when she looks back, he's closer. She runs again as hard as she can, looks back, he's closer still. And then at some point she's fallen, she's on the ground, and he leans his face right down to hers, close enough that his beard brushes her skin, and he laughs. This soft, giggling laugh, and she's frozen, can't move her body, can't move a finger, can't even close her eyes. She can only slide them left and right to avoid his, and then she wakes. And the other version of her sleep paralysis was the kitchen door, that same creaking door. And every time it creaked open, she'd be dragged toward it a little, against her will, and it would shut and creak open and drag her further until she'd been pulled inside the kitchen. And in the kitchen there's a woman in a white funeral dress, long hair hanging over her face, eyes and nose and mouth just visible through the strands. And this woman doesn't bend her legs, she folds only at the waist, bending down over Rachel, and she looks at her. Left eye, right eye, nose, lips. Left eye, right eye, nose, lips. Back and forth, taking each one in turn. And she smiles, and Rachel wakes up screaming inside herself. That was her whole life, and I had walked straight through the middle of it in my sleep and jammed the door shut with a stick. I laughed it off at the time. I said, "Well, sorry, I don't know why I got your nightmare," and I moved on. But here's the thing, Rachel left the company not long after, and I stayed in touch with her for about 2 years, and in those 2 years she never had sleep paralysis again. Not one time. She'd had it her whole life, 3 times a week, and after that night, never again. And it wasn't just her. If I sleep under the same roof as someone, they don't get pressed. It doesn't happen. I've tested it enough to be sure. Whatever I've got, it has a reach, maybe 100 feet across. I've half seriously thought about hiring myself out to people who suffer from it. Come stay a night. I'll clear your house. But here's the part one we had to make my peace with over the years. Being that strong doesn't mean I can protect the people I love. It only means it never comes for me. And when it wants somebody standing right next to me, all I get to do is watch. Which brings me to the road. This was closer to 27, 28 years ago. I was working as a club DJ in a coastal town, and I drove an old stick-shift sedan back then. There was a younger guy who worked under me, a good kid from down south. I'll call him Danny. One night the two of us decided to drive out to the bigger city a couple of hours inland to buy some clothes. We'd get a room, sleep, shop in the morning, drive back. So around 11:30, Danny and I handed the last set off to the other guys and hit the road. Now, the way inland runs you through a lot of dark country. This was before they built the expressway, nothing but a 2-lane state road. 1 lane each way, dirt shoulders maybe half a meter wide, weeds and cosmos flowers growing up along the edges. Somewhere on a long straight stretch, a mile and a half of open road right around midnight. My high beams caught 2 shapes up ahead walking along the shoulder. I said, "What is that, Danny?" And he leaned forward and said, "Boss, that looks like kids." Kids at midnight. So I looked around and there wasn't a single light anywhere. No village, no house, nothing. And I said, "That's strange." And Danny said, "Boss, come on, let's pick them up. Give them a lift into town at least." But I already had a bad feeling, and I told him so. There's no village out here. It's midnight, and 2 little kids are walking along a state road. That's not right. And Danny said, "They're just kids. What's the harm? Let's grab them." But there was a specific thing bothering me, and it was this. When a car comes up behind children at night and the headlights hit them, kids react. They flinch off the road or they turn and look back. That's just what children do. These 2 didn't. The bigger one on the roadside, the little one walking the very edge of the shoulder, holding hands. And they didn't move. Not a flicker, not a glance, nothing. So I kept saying, "I don't like this, I don't like this." And finally Danny said, "Fine, I'll just talk to them. If they seem okay, we pick them up. If not, we drive on." And I said, "All right." I put on my hazards and slowed down alongside them. And as I crept past, I stole a look out the passenger side. The bigger one was maybe 7 or 8. The little one 5 or 6, hand in hand. I pulled about 5 or 6 meters ahead of them and stopped. Danny leaned out his window and called back, "Hey kids, where are you headed? Let the man give you a lift. Wherever your house is, we'll take you." I was on the brake, watching them in my side mirror, and in the mirror I could see their feet come into the red glow of my taillights, then their knees, then their waists, and right as they were coming up to about chest height in the mirror, Danny tapped my gear knob, tap, tap, tap. So I rolled forward, another 6 or 7 meters. Danny leaned out again, further this time, and called back angrily, "Hey, when a grown-up talks to you, you answer. Where are you going? These little brats won't even answer." And again I'm watching the mirror, and again their feet come into the red light, ankles, knees, and just as they reach chest height, tap, tap, tap on the gear knob. So I rolled forward again. Now Danny's genuinely angry. He mutters, "These rude little, a grown-up's talking to them and they won't even," and instead of just leaving it and driving off, he suddenly slammed his hand down on the gear knob and screamed. Not a shout, a scream. A raw, terrified, "Sh." I said, "What? What is it?" And I didn't wait for an answer. I dropped it into gear and floored it, tires screaming, and we tore off down that road. And I kept saying, "What? What happened? What did you see?" And Danny wasn't answering. He was sliding down into the seat, sinking until his back and the back of his head were flat against the seat cushion and his rear was on the floor, sliding down into himself, eyes wide open, wide open, just staring and moaning, and not another word. I drove the whole rest of the way to the city like that, him folded into the footwell, eyes open, moaning. When we got in, I found a motel, and I basically carried him in, because now he was staggering like a drunk. Laid him down beside me and said, "Just sleep. Sleep it off, you'll be fine in the morning." But his eyes stayed open, wide open, not blinking, just staring, going, I fell asleep, and at some point I jolted awake. The thought hit me out of nowhere. God, Danny must have gotten such a scare, and I looked over, and he was exactly the same, eyes open, not blinking, moaning. In the morning it was worse. Sweating, eyes rolled up toward the ceiling, just lying there suffering. And I knew there'd be no shopping that day. I loaded him back into the car and drove straight home. On the way I called the club owner. I told him, "Boss, Danny and I left half an hour early last night, and Danny saw something on the road, and now something's wrong with him, like he's seen a ghost." And the boss said, "Bring him to me, right now." So I did, laid Danny in his room, which was right next to mine, and went to meet the boss out front of the club. And while I was standing there explaining it to him, the kids, the road, all of it, the boss's phone rang. It was his mother. Now the boss's parents were somebody in that town, well connected, the kind of people others went to, and his mother told him, "There's a shaman, a real one, very powerful. Take the boy to her." So the boss and I loaded Danny back up and drove him to this shaman's house. And when we walked in, she had her back to us. She was standing at her altar, the low table where the offerings go, arranging something, facing away. She didn't turn around. She didn't sit us down. She didn't even greet us. And then she turned and she fixed her eyes on Danny and glared at him. And the first words out of her mouth were, "The little spirit from the lower village and the little spirit from the upper village finally ran into each other after all this time. They'd had a drink together and they were walking home, and you cursed at them. What is the matter with you?" And every hair on my body stood up, because we had never told her. I hadn't told the boss the half of it, and I certainly hadn't said a word about lower villages and upper villages and two little spirits meeting. She just knew. And then she said, "One of them, alone, I couldn't help you with, and this is two. I can't do it. Find someone stronger somewhere else." The boss begged her, begged like Danny was his own son, pleaded and pleaded. She said no. She said, "Get out." And eventually we carried him back out to the car and drove home. But the boss and his mother kept at it, kept calling the shaman, kept begging her to do something for the boy. And finally she agreed she'd hold a full gut, a shaman's ritual, 2 days later. So they took Danny to her, and she did it, 3-4 hours of it, and it made no difference. He came home exactly the same, just staring at the ceiling. And by now he wasn't blinking at all, and because he wasn't blinking, his eyes had started to water and stream down the sides of his face, but he wouldn't close them. We'd reach out and touch his eyes with a finger, and if it looked like we were about to touch the eyeball itself, then he'd blink once reflexively, but otherwise he just stared at one spot and moaned, wouldn't speak, not one word. So we did what we could. The younger guys and I made rice porridge and fed him just enough to keep him alive, and we waited. A week went by like that, no change. And then, after about a week, I was in my room at my computer, and there was a knock at the door. "Who is it?" And a voice said, "Boss, can I come in?" It was Danny. I said, "You're better? You're okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay. I asked when, and he said, "A little while now." And I asked what in God's name had happened to him, and he wouldn't say. He just said, "Can I have a coffee?" So I made 2 cups of instant coffee, and he sat there and drank one. And I asked him again, "Danny, what did you see?" And he wouldn't tell me. He would not tell me. The one thing he did say was that he hadn't been able to close his eyes, couldn't do it. And when I asked why, he said, "Because the second I close them, it's right there again. The thing I saw, it comes right back." So he'd kept them open for a week rather than see it. He slowly came back to normal after that, walking around, laughing, coming out for walks with us. But whenever I asked what had happened on the road, he'd drop his head and go quiet. So I said, "Do you want me to stop asking?" And he said, "Please, until I want to tell you, don't ask." And I let it go. It was almost a month later that he finally told me. He came to me and said, "Boss, you know what I saw that night?" And I said, "Tell me, what was it? Why couldn't you say it?" And he said the reason he hadn't been able to say it was that he had no confidence he could ever describe the horror of it, or the shape of what he saw. He didn't think words would hold it, but he tried. Here's what it was like from his side. When he leaned out and called to those children, "Where are you going? Let us give you a ride." They never once looked at him. Not a glance. They just kept staring straight ahead and walking. When he tapped my gear knob and we rolled forward and he called again, angrier, cursed at them a little, nothing. They wouldn't even turn their heads, straight ahead walking. But that last time, when he really cursed, the bigger child's eyes turned, slowly rolled around toward him, and Danny's first thought was, "Oh good, finally they see me, he's noticed me." And then the child's mouth split open, just tore wide across the face, and the eyes tore open too, wider and wider, and the skin between the eyes split and peeled apart, the whole face opening up like something unfolding. And in the same instant the child crossed the 6 or 7 meters between them, all at once, sliding across the ground without a step, and slammed its hand onto the rear door handle of the car and gripped it and hung on. That's what Danny saw in his mirror, and that's why he couldn't close his eyes for a week, because every time he did, that thing came sliding toward him again and grabbed the handle over and over, right up against his face. And later, when Danny was well, the boss and his mother told the shaman the boy had recovered, and the shaman said something that stayed with me. She said she had done the ritual on a single hope, because when we first slowed down and spoke to those children, we had done it out of kindness. We meant to help them. We meant to give 2 lost kids a ride, and she believed it was that one moment of genuine good faith that had let her reach whatever those things were and move them just enough to give Danny back. If we'd meant them harm from the start, she said, she'd have had nothing to work with. I think about that a lot. The one thing that saved him wasn't my strength or the boss's money or 3 hours of ritual. It was that he'd meant to be kind. Now that same stretch of road gave me another one, and this one's about me, not somebody else. And it's short, but it's the reason I told you at the start, to remember that I can't see them. Sometime later, I was driving that same road at night, same hour, just past midnight. There were 4 of us, a young guy up front beside me, 2 young women in the back, heading inland after work. Everyone was tired, the mood was low, and I was just driving, not saying much. There's a spot on that road where there's a little reservoir, and on the roadside near it, a small memorial stone. I never stopped to read what it was for, so I don't know, but right around there my headlights picked out a woman up ahead. She had a bob cut, and she wore a black 2-piece, the skirt to about the knee, and she was standing with her legs perfectly straight, bent only slightly at the waist, a little handbag in her left hand, her right hand raised to shoulder height, palm out toward us, asking for a ride. Perfectly ordinary. A woman, maybe early 30s, waving down a car. So I said, "There's a woman here asking for a lift. Let's slow up. We'll take her as far as town." And the second the words left my mouth, everyone in the car came unglued. All three of them, screaming, "No, no, don't, do not stop." Absolute panic. I didn't understand it, so I steered around her and drove on, and once things settled I said, "What is wrong with you three? Since when are you so cold-hearted?" And they were still shaking, and they said, all three of them at once, "That woman, she was standing in that exact same spot, in that exact same pose 10 minutes ago. We already passed her once," and what they couldn't understand, they said, was me. Because I'm the kind of guy who always stops for someone in trouble, so why on earth didn't I want to pick her up? But that's the whole point. To me, she was just a woman, an ordinary woman in a black suit, asking for a ride, standing there twice on the same empty road at midnight, and I couldn't feel a single wrong thing about her. They saw her for what she was. I never can. Every one of them, to me, is only ever a person. Let me take you to another city, another club, maybe 25 years back. Anyone who's worked a club will tell you how the lights run. For a regular DJ, you set the lighting to automatic and leave it. But for a live DJ, the ones who really dance, who move all over the stage, a lighting technician works the board by hand and follows you. There was a follow spot, a light that picks out one person in a black room and holds a circle on them, and it was controlled with a stick, like the joystick on an old arcade cabinet. The tech would ride that stick and chase you around the stage with the light. I had an opening bit I loved. You know, the shiny wrapping paper, the kind that's foil on both sides? I'd cut it into tiny little pieces and hold a fistful of it in my hand, hidden, while my opening track came up, heavy footsteps, boom, boom, boom. And on the final crash, I'd throw the whole handful up over my head and the follow spot would snap on and catch it, and it would come raining down around me, glittering. It was beautiful. That was my signature. One night the music hit, footsteps, boom, boom, crash, and I threw the confetti, and the light didn't come on. And in the dark, foil confetti is nothing, invisible. It just fell into the black. I looked up at the lighting booth, which sits where you and I can make eye contact from the stage, and it was empty, lit up, but no tech in it. And I'd said hello to that man not 5 minutes before we started. I was furious, my whole opening ruined. I switched down to a ballad, handed the set off to the next DJ and stormed into the back. The manager came sprinting after me. "What is it? What happened?" And I told him, "The light didn't come on. I can't work like this. What is going on?" He went up to the booth, came back down and got on the radio to the waiters, "Find the lighting tech." They found him in the kitchen, crouched down in the gap between two refrigerators, trembling. The manager started in on him. "What's the matter with you? Are you out of your mind?" And the kitchen lady waved him off, said leave him alone, he's had a real fright. So they gave the tech some water and let him sit a while, and then the manager and I went up to the booth so the tech could show us what happened. And here's what he said. As he'd gone to flip the board from automatic over to manual to start following me, he'd glanced up and seen something behind me on the stage. Behind my back, he thought at first somebody had cranked the smoke machine too hard, but he looked closer, and it was a woman, long hair, a white funeral dress, and she had her chest pressed right up against my back, and she was staring at him. And the instant he touched the light switch, she scowled, and she turned toward him and leaned like she was about to come for him. So he lifted his hand off the switch, and she settled right back against my back. He reached for the switch again, she scowled and started toward him again. And in that moment it came to him, absolutely clear. The second I turn on that light, I die. So he left everything and ran for the kitchen. I was hearing all this and getting angrier, not less. I said something like, "That's ridiculous. Don't spook everybody with garbage like that." But the manager took me by the arm and walked me outside, and he told me not to make anything of it. The tech, he said, was simple, not right in the head, the kind of poor soul who used to get tricked onto the fishing boats and worked half to death out there. Just let it slide, he said, so we let it slide. The tech quit the next day, didn't even do a proper handover, just gone. So until they could hire someone, the waiters ran the lights between them. In a club, everybody can more or less do everybody's job. And that's when it started. You've got to understand, from the stage, once your eyes adjust, you can see everything out there. The booths back to back, the pickpocket leaning his arm over a seat back to lift the wallet from the table behind him, even a rat now and then running along the square rig the lights hang from. You see all of it. And one night, right in the middle of a packed floor, people dancing, about 15 rats dropped off the lighting rig all at once, right down onto the dancers' heads, all at once. People with a rat in their hair spun around and glared at whoever was behind them. People who felt one underfoot screamed. The whole floor went to pieces. And it kept coming. You'd open the club the next day, and the heavy, sturdy coat rack in the break room would be lying flat on the floor. The waiter on overnight duty would come in early, get everything set, lie down on the sofa for 10 minutes, and get pressed, held down, unable to move. Female customers who'd never met would suddenly be brawling, cops called, on and on. One night 2 men came in, took a room, and the waiter whose turn it was, went in and took their order. They ordered a whole bottle of whiskey, good money, so he was thrilled, set the whole thing up beautifully, poured them each around, bowed low, and on his way out, one of them slipped him a fat tip, a few tens of dollars. He was delighted, tucked it in his pocket, bowed his 90-degree bow and stepped out, and reached into his pocket for the tip, and it was gone. He spun around and checked the hallway, empty. He thought, I must have dropped it pulling my hand out in there. So he knocked and went back in, and the customers were gone. Just gone, in the second since he'd left. He thought, maybe they went out to dance, but no, he'd stepped out and reached for the tip that same second. And standing there confused, half feeling like he'd been bewitched, he made himself think it through. He remembered setting up the bottle, pouring each of them a glass. He looked at the glasses, empty, drunk, so the liquor was gone then. And then he looked at the bottle, and the bottle was brand new. The seal wasn't even broken. None of it had happened. He'd been shown a whole scene that never took place. He packed up the untouched whiskey and the fruit he'd laid out, and he went home early. And the DJs would be spinning, and the music would just cut out. There was a toggle switch behind the booth, out of reach, nowhere near your hands, and it would simply flip itself off. Customers scowling, DJs cursing. Eventually they hired a new lighting tech, a college kid doing nights for extra money. Never met the man who'd quit. Didn't know him, no connection at all. The waiters taught him the board. Regular DJ hit auto, ballad hit this button. Live DJ go manual, work the stick, here's your smoke button. He picked it up fast, did well. Then came my set. The ballad wound down. The kid and I made eye contact across the room, and I hit my opening, footsteps, boom, boom, crash, and threw the confetti, and the light didn't come on. I looked up. The booth was empty. We found him in the bathroom. First day, first set, and he was quitting on the spot. And when the manager asked him why, the kid described the ghost, the long hair, the white dress, pressed against my back, coming for him the instant he touched the switch. Word for word, detail for detail, exactly what the first man had said. A man he'd never met, never spoken to, never even heard about. Everyone in that room just stood there with their mouths open. So the next day, before dawn, they set up a pig's head on the altar and laid out an offering, and the whole staff took turns, one by one, pouring liquor and bowing, as sincerely as any of them had ever done anything. And after that, it stopped. All of it. And from then on they did it once a month, faithfully, a pig's head and a bow, every single month. As long as I was there, nothing else ever happened. I've saved the worst for last. Another city, about 30 years ago now. There was a club there famous enough that they'd shot a movie in it. The one that launched a big star's career. Everybody around knew it. I got hired on, and there was already a younger guy working there. Had been for 6 months before I arrived. Good kid. I'll call him Kevin. Kevin was living with his girlfriend, and before I ever met her, the other guys had talked my ear off about her. The girlfriend, the one you'd politely call the sister-in-law, the way you do when a man's got a woman even without a wedding, and the things they said. An angel. There's no angel like her. Beautiful, generous, would give you the shirt off her back. If you marry a woman like Kevin's girl. She remembered everybody's birthday. She'd have the guys over and cook for them, and her cooking was unbelievable. Every compliment a person can pay a woman, they paid her. The first time I met her, she came into the club with some friends, and Kevin brought me over to their table, and she was exactly as advertised. Genuinely stunning, and well-mannered with it. Hello, you must be the new one. Kevin's told me all about you. Come by after work tomorrow. We'll feed you. You can't live on takeout forever. And so the next night I went, and the table was groaning with food, short ribs, japchae, a spread of side dishes, seaweed soup, everything you could think of. She'd bought a few of the side dishes from a specialty shop and made all the rest herself. It was magnificent, and it was delicious, and I stuffed myself until I could barely move, and over coffee I told Kevin, you'd better hold on to this one. There was nothing to fault, nothing. A month or so went by. She came into the club a couple more times, and then she invited us all to dinner again. Same 6 of us who'd gone before, same enormous spread, and as we were about to dig in, she said, "There's plenty, eat, and if you run short, just tell me, I'll bring more." And she went into the bathroom, and we ate. We were nearly finished when one of the younger guys turned to Kevin and said, "Kevin, hasn't she been in the bathroom an awfully long time?" And now I noticed it too. We'd had our heads down eating, but it had been a while. Is she showering? No, we could see the living room she'd have had to come back through, and she hadn't. Bad stomach, even so this long. And right as I was thinking it, Kevin said, "Damn it," under his breath, went to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and ran to the bathroom. It happened so fast I just gaped at him. But then I saw what the knife was for. That bathroom had one of those old doors with a round knob, and he was working the blade into the gap between the door and the frame, right at the latch, prying it, trying to pop it open. And in the door frame I saw them, dozens of scratches, countless old knife marks gouged into the wood right there at the latch. And I understood. This was not the first time. This was not even the 10th time. He got it open fast, and as it swung, I quietly signaled the other guys, "Don't stare, keep eating, because you don't know what a woman's doing in a bathroom she won't come out of. You give her privacy." But then Kevin cried out her name and started shaking her, and there was no not looking. She was sitting on the toilet, fully dressed, and she was unspooling toilet paper with her hands, roll after roll, and spreading it out across the floor, and weeping, tears just pouring down her face, and she'd used so much paper that it lay heaped on the floor, almost up to her ankles. And she was talking. She was saying over and over, If I don't, they'll kill me. I don't want to die. What am I supposed to do? They keep telling me to. If I don't, they'll kill me. Kevin was shaking her. Snap out of it. Come back. Snap out of it. And the rest of us, we couldn't stay. Not because of the fear, though God knows there was that, because we'd walked in on something private, on Kevin's woman at her lowest, and it was no place for us. So I got the guys up and out. On my way past Kevin, I said, take care of her, and we left. A few days later, one of our guys had a birthday, and we threw him a little party, and she came. Cake in her hands, a present for the birthday boy. You can't very well sit there stone-faced, so we all laughed and had a good time. And at one point she said, quietly, I'm sorry about the other night, and she told us to come for dinner again soon. And we joked, we get to eat your cooking again, and we promised we would. And over the next while there were 2 or 3 more dinners, and nothing happened, and everything was fine. And then came the last one. There was another dinner invitation, and I'd meant to go, but that same day my father called. My family's back in the town where I grew up, and he told me to come home for a visit. So I sent the younger guys on ahead, and the moment work ended, drove home instead. I stayed the night, and the next morning drove back in time for work, and when I got to our place, all the guys were up already. So I said, morning, how was dinner? And the room exploded. One of them was so shaken he'd gone out and bought medicine to calm himself. Another had a splitting headache and couldn't shake it from what he'd seen. Every one of them was rattled to pieces. So I asked, was it the bathroom again, same as before? And they said yes. She'd been in there again, unspooling roll after roll across the floor, crying, saying the same words. They'll kill me. I don't want to die. They keep telling me to. If I don't, they'll kill me. But then, they said, it got worse than anything they'd seen. Kevin was shaking her by the shoulders, and then he got his hands up under her armpits to lift her, and the second he did, her legs shot straight up. The way they described it, imagine a rope tied to her ankles and somebody yanking it hard from the ceiling. Her legs snapped up 90 degrees, and she slid up into the air until only the backs of her shoulders and the back of her head still touched the ground, and her legs stood straight up at the ceiling, rigid in a perfect line, an unnatural force. Nothing a person could do to themselves. Nothing anybody could do to another person. They watched her get dragged upward like that, and they ran, didn't even stop for their shoes, grabbed them and bolted. Not even an athlete could hold their body like that, they kept saying. Of course not. Nobody could. Kevin didn't come to work that day. He came the next, and I asked him, is she all right? And he let out this long breath, and he told me her grandmother had been a shaman, and the calling had come down to her. She was meant to become a shaman herself, but she'd refused. All that sickness, all that suffering that comes when the spirits want you and you say no, and she'd endured every bit of it, swearing she would rather die than take it up. That's what all of it had been. The bathroom, the crying, the voices telling her to do it or they'd kill her. It was them, working on her, and her refusing. After that last night, she lost consciousness, and they put her in the hospital. And a few days later, Kevin and she broke up. Over that, over all of it. I never found out what became of her, whether she finally gave in and took up the calling and became a shaman, or whether she's still out there somewhere, sitting on a bathroom floor, unspooling roll after roll, telling something that won't leave her that she doesn't want to die. So that's the shape of my life. I have never seen a single one of them. Every ghost in every one of these stories, the old man in the reeds, the 2 little ones on the road, the woman waving down my car, the one pressed against my back on that stage. To me, when I look at them, they are only ever people, ordinary people. And that, in the end, is the part that stays with me. Not that they were there. I've made my peace with that. It's that I was standing right in the middle of it the whole time, close enough to touch, and I couldn't tell. The strong one, the one nothing can touch. All that strength, and the only thing it was ever good for was surviving to watch. And the one time it mattered, the one time somebody I cared about got pulled back from the edge, it wasn't me that did it, and it wasn't strength at all. It was a kid leaning out a car window at midnight, meaning to be kind to two children who weren't children. That's the only thing I've ever seen turn any of it back. So if you take one thing from an old DJ who's outlived everybody's nightmares but his own, take that. Whatever's out there on the dark road, meet it, if you have to, with kindness. It may be all that saves you.